Here we go. Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests.
Good afternoon.
What an amazing crowd. Thank you all. To start things off, we have the four-way test, prayer, and pledge led by Jay Gadberry, then guest introductions with Melissa Hendricks, and two member reintroductions with the new membership chair, Ross Burnett. A quick reminder to everybody before we get started, please silence your cell phones during the meeting. With that, we'll take it away, Jay.
All right. Let us pray. Our Father, we thank Thee for our many blessings. We are so blessed. We know the world would be a better place if we just loved each other and trusted each other. Pray for our world leaders to be able to solve our global issues to the benefit of all concerned. Guide and direct us in the way that we should go. In Your name we pray. Amen. Four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. I'm Melissa Hendricks with guest introductions, and we have several guests today. That's very nice. We have three guests here today from our Rotaract, our local Rotaract club: Daniel Frazier, Connor Martz, and Andy Bingham. If you could stand. Thank you. It's always nice to welcome the Rotaract Club. Christina Clark is a guest today with Aaron Lubin. Morgan Drayton is a guest of Mary Lackey. Bill Lansden is a guest of Denver Peacock. Allison Gatton is a guest of Annabeth Gorman. If you'll please stand when we call your name. Braille Nash is a guest of Colin Crawford. Dr. Alex Pappas is a guest of Steve Clift. Maddie Sutter is a guest of Laura Nick. And Madison Aldi is also a guest of Laura Nick. And our final guest for today, Laura Marcus, a guest of Stephanie Street. Please join me in welcoming our guests today. Thank you so much.
It's always good to see the Rotaract crew over here. I'm a past president of Rotaract and then came on through here. And it's a perfect segue into our new member introductions. We've got two reintroductions today of a couple of loved members. Sarah Catherine Gutierrez, if you want to come up here, we'll take your picture. Sarah Catherine was also a member of Rotaract back in the day and then joined Rotary, took a break as she was expanding her business nationwide, and then is happy to be back now that things have, a little capacity's been added, we'll say that. So she's the CEO of Aptus Financial, an advice-only financial advisory firm, and holds a Master's of Public Policy from Harvard University and the Certified Financial Planner designation. Her firm has provided financial planning to nearly 1,000 physicians and runs retirement plans, student loan programs, and financial wellness programs for more than 25,000 participants. She is the author, of course, of But First, Save 10, what she's probably most known for. Great book, great advice. I tell my own clients that. Thank you. And, But First, Save 10, the one simple money move that will change your life. And we're just very pleased to have you back. Thank you so much. Everyone welcome Sarah Catherine. And then, of course, after a 5-month hiatus, so happy to have Kelly Bass back. Everybody welcome Kelly. Kelly's in his second career. He told me, an old dog can learn new tricks. Well, he's doing just that. He's over at the Hatcher Agency with Greg, and he's doing big things there. He joined in February. course, you know him from Museum Discovery, served there for 12 years as CEO, and really longest period of sustained growth and success. Before he was at the museum, you spent 4 years as Assistant Dean for External Affairs in the College of Engineering and Information Technology at UA Little Rock. You served 9 years as Senior Vice President of Communications of Axiom. And, of course, the newspaper business for 18 years. You did some of that here during your hiatus, working for the DimGaz, and did some good write-ups. So everybody welcome Kelly.
Welcome back, Sarah Catherine and Kelly. We are so glad to have you both back with us. And thank you to Jay, Melissa, and Ross, as well as today's greeters. We have in the back here, Fran Carter, Ashley Fondren, Ed Levy, and Bill Haynes. Thank you all for these smiling faces up front. We get to begin our announcements today with a thank you to the volunteers who showed up for our Fouche Creek cleanup this Saturday morning. It was a chilly hike in the woods, but we were able to collect a ton of trash and explore what runs through our city drains, ranging from a single-use food wrapper up to a bowling ball and somehow a 60-gallon ice chest that randomly showed up down there. So it was a fun, albeit sobering morning, and it reminded us all to pay a little bit more attention to what makes it into the storm drains of our city. Our next service project is scheduled for April 5th. Club member Rob Delaney will be leading a team to help finish a Habitat for Humanity house. All hands are welcome. Please sign up on DAC2B and come join us. And our next book club affinity group scheduled for March 19th. Steve Stracely will be hosting a lunch discussion on the book The Barn by Wright Thompson. Read it if you have time, but all are welcome to the talk. Next up, we have April 8th luncheon will be our 33rd annual Police and Fire Awards with Chair Chad Cummings. Thank you all to both the committee members and our sponsors for helping to organize it. We are still accepting donations for the event, so if you'd like to participate, please see myself, Karen, or Chad. And our next new member orientation is scheduled for April 21st with Chair Melissa Hendricks. Please come learn a little bit more about our club and how to get more involved. Staying busy, thank you. Finally, we have our next social event for the year, a family-friendly trip to Dickey Stevens Park to watch the Travelers play. That's April 23rd. Registration will be soon to come. The last item is a little bit further down the calendar, but we are accepting nominations right now for the Business Person of the Year Award. Chair Chris Johnson from Dillard's will be hosting the BPOY presentation on May 27th, but it does take time to get through all the candidates. So if you know somebody that should be considered, please put their names forward quickly. With that, we get to move to the President's Minute. To continue our Rotary Year theme of Global Hearts, Local Hands, I've decided to use my President's Minute to highlight Rotary clubs around the globe. There are more than 46,000 clubs worldwide. We'll take a minute to learn about one other club a week from their history, membership, or the special projects that they support. This week, we continue our look at the largest clubs in the country. We are up to number 7, the Rotary Club of San Jose, California. Chartered in 1914, I was happy to see that Club 501 shares not only our love for our area code, but also the long-standing history of service above self. 501 area code? I didn't get a giggle for that? Thank you very much. The club got to work quickly after their charter in 1914, installing the first street signs in San Jose, and have grown to develop over 20 recurring service projects throughout the year. Their local community service includes an annual Rotary Gala, an ADA-compliant play garden, a free medical clinic called Rota Care, and a Pause to Consider program focusing on the intersection between humans and animal needs. They also sponsor an Ambassadors of Compassion platform to help develop a generation of emotionally resilient, self-sufficient, and compassionate students through a 10-week mentoring program. Internationally, they support a program called Rotoplast, a platform that not only shows off their creative marketing and branding, but also provides free cleft palate and facial reconstruction surgeries in primarily Latin American countries. Oh, and they also sponsor the 4th of July fireworks in San Jose. Truly, this club shows the power of numbers. Their current membership is the first on our list to break over 400 members at 418, and they show that scale can provide lots of opportunities to serve. So with that, I will toast the Rotary Club of San Jose, California, the 7th largest club in the country. With that, we are ready to introduce today's program. Please help me welcome Program Chair Chris Mangum up to the front to introduce today's panel. Chris?
Thank you, Jason. I'm going to keep my part of this introduction very brief, just kind of set up the program for today. And I want to thank Denver and the Peacock Group for a lot of work helping us pull this together. Really appreciate it, Allison, Amanda, for all your work. So you may be aware that it is Women's History Month in March. You may not be as aware that this past Saturday was International Women's Day. So to honor and commemorate the coincidence of those two important dates, we wanted to pull together a panel to recognize and celebrate a really spectacular group of women who have accomplished a great deal in their careers. I know you're going to feel the same way, maybe be even more blown away than I was when I was reading their bios and everything in preparation for this. They are going to talk about their experiences as they grew in their careers, some of the challenges that they faced, how they overcame those, and hopefully talk a little bit about what women face in terms of challenges today. The world's always changing, and the landscape is changing for women as they go forward. And as a father of a 10-year-old daughter, I'm particularly interested in that part of it. So I also want to, as part of my introduction, talk a little bit about Annabeth Gorman. She's a Club 99er. She probably doesn't need much of an introduction, but she is also a very accomplished and impressive woman to be up here moderating this panel. As you know, she's CEO of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas. They are focused on women's economic security around the state. They're doing that through two signature initiatives, Girls of Promise and Women Empowered. In 2022, she was the Democratic nominee for Arkansas Secretary of State. That same year, she was recognized as one of the 250 most influential leaders in Arkansas by Arkansas Business. Prior to her tenure with the Women's Foundation, she was an executive with the Girl Scouts in Arkansas and regionally in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. She's a past chairman of the North Little Rock Chamber of Commerce, active in Club 99. We see her a lot here. She's a board member of Arvest Bank Little Rock, a member of the Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame, and founding board member of the Southern Capital Project. So without further ado, Annabeth.
Well, I really am very, very excited today about this panel and to be with you all here to celebrate Women's History Month. And of course, this last Saturday was International Women's Day. It's also the Girl Scout birthday week. And as Chris mentioned in my bio, I am a lifetime Girl Scout. And actually tomorrow is the Girl Scouts birthday. March 12th is the Girl Scouts birthday. But I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. Karen's going to help me out because in 1988, I wanted to join Scouts. I come from a long line of Scouts, a 4-generation Scouting family. This last weekend, my youngest first cousin earned the rank of Eagle. That's 8 Eagles in our family. My grandmother was there his great-grandmother was there to receive the grandmother pin. But I was told in 1988 I could not be a Boy Scout, so I joined the Girl Scouts in 1988. And in the tradition of President Chaco, something else happened in 1988. Turn your attention to this picture. 1988 was the year that Club 99 allowed women to join for the very first time. And so This is such a great picture because in this last year, I actually had lunch with Jane Saunders McMullen. She's seated on the bottom left-hand side, and we were talking about she's a founder of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, and we were talking about all things, and she talked about Club 99, and she said how she got the phone call that they wanted her to be the first female member of Club 99, and she's like, well, isn't that nice? She's like, yeah, I'll come, but I'm bringing some friends with me. Because she wasn't gonna be the first or the last. So in 1988, there was a whole cohort of women in Club 99, and I think it's really incredible to kind of get to celebrate that day. So a little bit of our own club history, if you will. It's only 37 years ago. And why it's important to still celebrate Women's History Month is because we've accomplished a lot, but we still have pretty far to go. It's International Women's Day is a day to reflect on how far we've come, but the work that's still ahead. Gender equity has become a bad word now, but equity is about making sure that people feel welcomed, that they stay, that their place at the table isn't just a placeholder, but there is a voice and they are contributing. And I think that we can all agree when we look at the room today, wouldn't we want the room to look like it does today, not differently? At the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, we believe that progress isn't just about celebrating the first woman to break a barrier, but it's ensuring that she is not the last. So that philosophy, first but not last, has guided WFA since our founding. We were founded 27 years ago, and we're still the only statewide organization solely dedicated to the economic security of women and girls. We do research, we invest, and we have innovative programs, but we work to make Arkansas a place where women and their families don't just survive, but they thrive. Our mission, now more than ever, is very critical. And today we're gonna be celebrating women who are the first in their field, but we for sure hope they're not the last. And before I go any further, I need to make sure I recognize the whole WFA team is here today. Our staff, can you stand up, ladies, and just wave your hands? Our WFA staff is here. Also, I see some other WFA founders in the room. If you don't mind standing up, that would make me really happy. Catherine Hughes is one of the WFA founders. Anybody else? I see former board members. Sarah Catherine has been a longtime partner and collaborator and a huge supporter. We love to talk about women and their money at the WFA. So consider this. Women in STEAM fields like engineering and aerospace are still significantly underrepresented, making up just 28% of the workforce nationwide. In sports management, only a handful of women hold leadership positions in professional and minor league teams. Even in corporate leadership, women remain underrepresented in executive roles, despite the fact that diverse leadership teams drive stronger business outcomes. So that is why today's conversation is so important, and our panelists, who are going to be joining me just momentarily, Dr. Kim Needy, Dr. Constance Metters, and Sophie Osier, have broken barriers in their industries and are actively creating pathways for more women to follow. Today's discussion is not just about their journey, it's about what business leaders in this room can do to foster environments where more women can rise. And I really want y'all to reflect on this because it's kind of lonely right now being a women serving organization in a country and a state that are actively removing scholarships for women and minorities, that are taking away opportunities that helped us close gaps that had persisted for years. And so today it's going to be about listening to our panelists and thinking beyond this discussion and how can you support women in leadership within your own organization. What barriers, seen or unseen, exist in your workplace and how can they be removed? How can you ensure that women breaking ground today are not the last? This is more than a conversation, it is an invitation to action. And with that, I'm thrilled to join the real meat of our program, our panelists today. So ladies, if you want to go ahead and make your way up here, I'll come over here and join you too. Okay. I think this is on. It's on. I think, oh, it's on, great. So we have on stage this afternoon, Dr. Kim Lascola-Needy, and she's the Dean of the College of Engineering at the University of Arkansas, a nationally recognized leader in industrial engineering and a past president of multiple engineering societies. She is shaping the future of STEAM education and workforce development. Dr. Constance Metters, fangirled earlier all about aerospace. I just talked to her about astronauts for a while. Dr. Constance Metters is the director of the Arkansas Space Grant Consortium and the first African female in the nation to hold this role. A true rocket scientist, she is a trailblazer in aerospace and STEAM education, inspiring the next generation of innovators. And Sophie Osier, the first female general manager at the Arkansas Travelers and one of the youngest GMs in minor league baseball. She is a rising star in sports management, proving that leadership in athletics isn't just for men. Give a round of applause to our panelists. Yeah. Okay. So, first but not last, you've each been the first in your respective field. Do you just want to share kind of a defining moment to kind of kick us off when you realized the significance of that, or did you feel the significance in that?
I guess I'll go first. I think I really felt it probably my first week of the season as general manager. And a big part of my job is basically making calls in regards to weather. It's my least favorite part of my job. But baseball is outdoors, so I get the fun privilege of calling rain delays and communicating that with the field managers. And so I went in to have a conversation with a field manager. It was spitting rain outside. Now, it was the first day of a homestand. We had rain all week long, and I basically was like, hey, we're really gonna have to try to push this today, try to get this game in, because we got 5 more games this week, rain's in this radar all week. And he just went off on me on, you don't understand player safety, and my guys are out there and they're gonna get hurt, and basically was insinuating that I didn't understand that his players could possibly get hurt by playing on wet grass. I think that was the moment that I realized, oh, this is gonna be a little bit more difficult than I thought. So I had to kind of navigate those conversations and really learn how to put my foot down with those of, hey, I'm not asking, I'm telling. This is what we have to do, and ultimately this is my call. And so I would like to say that was my welcome to minor league baseball moment.
Okay, let's go down the line. Dr. Metters?
So when I actually realized, I guess, the importance of my role was probably I was speaking to someone about my position, and they asked me about something that I did at NASA. And I was telling them about the project, and then it occurred to me that I had actually established a program at NASA that was new. So I contacted NASA to find out, and then they asked, did I realize that I was the first person, the first space grant director? And I was like, no, I didn't realize that. And then we went on to have this conversation. What I later realized, even after that, was not only was I the first space grant, African-American female space grant director in the country, but I am the first African-American EPSCoR director ever in the country, because EPSCoR is a national program as well. And so that was something that was fairly new to me. And I was kind of shocked, because I just put my head down and I really worked hard, and you look up and sometimes you're in spaces that you didn't expect to find yourself. When it came to the state of Arkansas, I was working on some programs, and someone wanted to interview me about being influential in the state. And I thought, oh, okay, sure, I'm a teacher, I'm a this, I'm a that. And then when it came out that I was in the 250, I was like, what, me? I don't belong there. And that's when I actually realized that maybe my role here was very impactful.
Okay, I'll begin and continue with the theme of history lesson here. So I have a little history lesson. So Here in the United States, the very first woman of a College of Engineering was Eleanor Baum in 1984, okay, out of about 300 colleges of engineering. Fast forward 20 years later, there were about 12 women who were deans of College of Engineering. Fast forward another 20 years to today, there are about 80, or about 27% of the colleges of engineering in this country are led by women. So it's fantastic when I'm at an event, there are no lines at the ladies' room, which is very different than in a sporting event or something like that, I would say. But I say this because I didn't really realize, kind of like Constance was saying, just work hard, just do your job. And all of a sudden, then, when I was appointed to this position, people are reaching out saying, wow, you're a female and you're a dean of the college. Can we talk? These are young girls, other faculty, people in business. My colleague, Bill Lansden, was introduced as a guest of Denver Peacock. When we travel and meet people and they don't know who we are, they assume that he is the dean and I am the person helping to raise money. So it's an awesome responsibility, and sometimes I think, don't screw up, do a great job so that maybe another woman can be in this position in the future.
Great. Thank you. So, Deanie, let's continue with you. As you stepped into your role, what was the most surprising or an unexpected hurdle in this leadership position that you have?
So I would say you're all leaders. It's a very demanding job. It's not a 8 to 5, Monday through Friday job. And so for me, I guess I knew that, but what was unexpected are those demands that are placed on you, the constant juggling of your personal life with your professional life. Many of my colleagues who are men do not have wives or partners that are working full-time and demanding jobs outside of the home, where I can say that most of my female colleagues, that is not the case. And so I'm always reminded, my kids are a little older now, but I'm always reminded after a very long day, the children calling me at 6 o'clock saying, what are we having for dinner? And I want to say, can anybody else take care of this? But it's on me, and I love it. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying it is a difference that I hadn't expected about the demands.
So just a quick follow-up, because 27, 28%, we're going from 1984 to present, so we still have a long way to go, but who were mentors or people that you look to that could give you guidance as you were growing your career trajectory? What did that look like for you in this space?
Yeah, most of them were men, because that's who right. There were. So I would just say that the importance of mentors and advocates just cannot be understated. People that believe in you, that encourage you to reach out beyond what you think is possible. We've all heard of this idea of the imposter syndrome, and that's very real, probably for all people, but I think especially for women. Research shows that women do not apply for a new position unless they can check every single box and say, yes, I can do that. The research shows that men are more self-assured, and they go, I can do most of these and I'm really smart, I will figure it out.
Who would you rather hire? Okay, so Sophie, you're not only the first GM in Trav's history. I live in North Little Rock, so I get to call him. I'm a Trav's fan. You're also one of the youngest GMs in minor league baseball. You talk to us about what does that feel like to not only for gender but age in your field, please?
Yeah, I think it was really complicated at first trying to figure out where I fit in and how I could use that as a strength rather than a weakness. Like times when just the example before where I was going in and I was working with an older field manager that was used to working with an older GM or an older groundskeeper. I think that probably would have resonated better with him. But I think another thing I have going for me is I am closer to the player's age. So I have a better understanding of what they're going through and their lifestyle changes. And I can understand what their wives are having to go through when they come through town because they're all around the same age as me. They're having to live these crazy lifestyles of possibly living in 3 different places within 6 months. So I've really tried to lean into that and what I think my strengths and what I can bring to the table there, while also understanding that I'm just going to set the expectation up front that when I walk into a room and people see me, they're going to think I'm underqualified for my job. So that's just what they're going to think. They're not going to think that I have a good understanding of baseball. And so I try to overcompensate for that by being over-informed. And I think a lot of women in this room can resonate with that, of how much more informed do you have to go into a room and prepare for a meeting just because you feel like you have to prove yourself more. And that's ultimately what I've done the first few years. And it's gotten better as I've been able to build relationships with people that are now coming through. And I primarily work with field managers from opposing teams and umpires and other general managers at other teams. So as I've built those relationships, I think they've seen, oh, maybe she knows what she's doing now. But I think those first 3 years, they were like, who is this young shot over here? What is she doing? So,
Thank you. Dr. Metters, Harding University is on your resume. You were the first African American and female to teach mechanical engineering there. How has being a woman of color, impacted your trajectory, your professional trajectory?
So along my professional trajectory, there are a couple of things. As she mentioned, imposter syndrome. You show up and you kind of wonder if you belong in the room. Also, you have to be prepared or you're over-prepared because you don't want anyone to question your presence there. But as I think about the trajectory, because I am a physicist, I always think of how do I apply that. And I think about, she mentioned she's baseball, softball, then I think about a ball, I think about a football. And when you're talking about a football, once the quarterback releases a football and it's on its trajectory, there are only a few things that can control that. And so that would be, gravity or the wind, or of course at the end, if you have a defensive player that maybe intercepts that. Some things about the football you can't change. You can't change the size or the shape or the color of the football. Same thing with a baseball. I can't change those things. When I show up, I can't change those things. So I own it. I own that I'm an African-American female, but I also own the fact that I'm an African-American female from the South, because I have to address those when I am on the national stage, how I'm viewed as a Southerner. And so I own that. What I do look at is I look at the fact that once I'm on that trajectory, I look at how those things may come at me and I prepare for those things. But there have been times when I have applied for positions, or there were opportunities that I certainly thought I was overqualified because, as you mentioned, we show up and we know we're qualified. We're going to check every box and some. And maybe I didn't get that. So that is the time when you say, okay, the defensive team won or they intercepted it. But as with a quarterback, what do? The quarterback throws the ball again. And so I go back and I throw again. And so with that, that's how I feel that I have been able to move as a person of color in this position.
Thank you. Yeah. So women continue to be underrepresented in all 3 of these industries, engineering, aerospace, and sports management, which are all fascinating when you start peeling back, because I think for you, especially girls, you just say engineering, you think of a thing, you don't understand all of the layers of engineering. Same with aerospace, same with, we talked about this, same with sports management. So Sophie, how would you describe kind of state of gender equity in sports? And I'm just going to keep using the word equity. I'm hoping this is a safe space for me to use that word, but I'm just going to keep using that today. What is the current, state of gender equity in sports? And then for those who aren't clear, that definition just means respecting all people without discrimination, regardless of their gender. It also means addressing gender inequities that limits a person's ability to access opportunities or to achieve better opportunity based on their gender. So that's what that means. I'm kind of giving some level set here. But what do you think, Sophie?
Yeah, so my first full season as general manager was 2022, and minor league baseball as a whole was going through a big change at the time. We had a lot of facility standard requirements that were put on us at the ballpark that we were trying to work through, and there had just been this huge shift in the industry. And one of the requirements that Major League Baseball had was they required every facility in minor league and Major League Baseball to have a female locker room. And so we were trying to put that together because at minor league parks, there's not a just ton of extra space lying around. And so we were trying to make sure it worked and we could have one for 2022. And that year, we also had a head female athletic trainer, a assistant female athletic trainer, a video intern who is basically the person who follows the team around all the time and works with the guys on their swing and, I mean, really breaks down everything for them. And then we had a female strength and conditioning coach as well. So that first year, we had 4 females on staff that were traveling with the team all the time, plus me as a female general manager. So it was great in a way because the guys just had to get used to it. There was no easing into it. They all of a sudden just had 4 females that were constantly in the locker room, on the buses with them, on the road with them, all the time. And I'm really grateful to the Seattle Mariners, who is our parent club, who hired all of those people, because I think they've really fostered a good environment for that. And it's made it easier having all 5 of us together. If we can kind of work together and we figured out when we can be in the locker rooms at what time and figuring out paths. But even since 2022, it has changed so much. And I think it's because Major League Baseball just kind of adopted this mentality of if you build it, they will come, and requiring all of those stadiums and all of those facilities to have a designated area where these women can shower after the games and get ready before the games and make it a safe environment. And they recommended that, we consult with our females on staff and put things in those locker rooms that they would need, like hair ties. Like, you're not having a lot of hair ties sitting around the men's clubhouse. And so making sure they had the things that they need. We've been able to expand and add more female staff every year. So last year we were fortunate enough that there was one series we were playing a road team. We had 10 females in the female locker room. That would have been unheard of in 2019. So it's been a lot of growth in the last couple of years, and I hope to see it grow even more.
That just reminds me, the story when Sandra Day O'Connor was appointed to the Supreme Court. There wasn't a women's restroom at the Supreme Court, and she had to literally go to a separate building. And it wasn't until Ruth Bader Ginsburg got there that they actually created a women's bathroom for the Supreme Court. So very, very similar and interesting kind of evolution. Okay, so continuing this, I want to make sure. Dean, I want to talk about the Heartland Forward report. Our club actually heard about that recently, and I think y'all are here as well talking about engineers, computer scientists, and data scientists as drivers for economic growth. This is near and dear to my heart, the Women's Foundation, talking about women in STEAM and STEM. How do you feel about our current standings, however we come in the future for women in these fields, just with the current environment?
Well, I just want to challenge everybody here. We've got to do better. So the Heartland Forward report that we commissioned was a look ahead based on our strategic plan in the College of Engineering, where we're challenging ourselves to double the number of engineering, computer science, and data scientist graduates, and doubling our research productivity by 2035. So Vision 2035 is a very future-looking strategic plan. If we can do this, their report shows that we can add $3.9 billion to the Arkansas economy and create 19,000 jobs. And these are high-paying jobs here in the state. And why this is important is because as we travel across the state and we meet business owners, they tell us we're not producing enough engineers, computer scientists, and data scientists to fill all these jobs. And quite frankly, it's a pipeline problem. And what I mean by a pipeline problem is that today we are only graduating as a nation about 25% of our graduates who are female, okay? So if we don't kind of address that gender gap and get more young girls interested in STEAM areas, we are not going to be successful. Colleagues of ours at the College of Engineering and Health Professions in Fayetteville have published results that show here in the state that by third grade, 40% of students say, I don't like STEM, it's hard, I don't like math, I don't like science. By third grade, 40%. And by 7th grade, that number jumps up to 80%. So the pipeline or the funnel keeps getting smaller and smaller. And as a nation, if we don't address this, this is a matter of our economic welfare, of the state, of the nation, and really about national security. So these are some of the things that keep me up at night about the urgency in which we have to prepare, especially more young women into this field, and about the great value that can be realized by our state.
And I saw Laura Nick over there with Garver. I know that, our engineering firms in our state would be like, yeah, we need more engineers. And quite frankly, they want engineers of any kind. But, it is about intentionality. How do we get it bigger and wider? And next month, the Women's Foundation will be hosting our Girls of Prominence conference for 8th graders, because that's still that critical age, as Deanie just talked about, where we try to really encourage and we partner with companies. These are jobs in Arkansas. These are things to consider. And speaking of jobs and opportunities in Arkansas, I'm always shocked, Dr. Metters, when people don't realize aerospace in Arkansas. It is our #1 export. People think of us as an ag state, but it's really aerospace is our #1 export. So talk to us, please, about the misconceptions that exist for women just in general in the field, and also maybe look down at our state, the misconception, or maybe just what people don't know, they need to know about Arkansas and aerospace.
So one of the misconceptions, first of all, is that women in any STEM field, that we don't have the aptitude or that we don't have the technical skills. And with that, then that kind of limits. That also, one of the misconceptions is our ability to grow our own in the state, because we can grow our own here in the state. As it relates to the aerospace industry, as she mentioned, that is our #1 export. And as part of the as the director of the Arkansas Space Grant Consortium, we have 18 universities as part of this, 18 universities and colleges across the state. What I am working to do and what I would like to do is actually to grow that by doing just what you're mentioning, growing our own here in the state. We are working to create programs that will exceed the expectations of not only the state, but the nation as it relates to Arkansas. What we also have is throughout our state, we're having this growth. So she mentioned that pipeline. And with that pipeline, what we have right now in the aerospace, so at her institution, we have aerospace concentrations and we have programs across the state. Right now, there's probably about 15 young ladies in that program. What I have is I had students apply for NASA internships, and we cover NASA internships from the Arkansas Space Grant Consortium. Here's something a lot of people don't know. I had 500 applications that went to NASA. And when I got the numbers, these are excellent students with excellent GPAs across the board. So we have them here in our state. We have the students. We have those that are capable. What we have to do is now we have to work to keep them here. We have to make sure that we create that pipeline that she's talking about, that we patch those leaks that are in the pipeline. And so that's what I want to see us do. I want to be able to take those students, because all 500 of them can't go to NASA. And it's my goal to figure out how to place them here in the state of Arkansas. How do we keep them here in the state of Arkansas? So I'm looking at how do I create a program that I can keep the students here that submitted those applications. Some of them actually came from high school students, because NASA starts accepting interns at age 16. So when we're talking about at that younger level, we can do some things right here, and we do have the students, and they are capable. I truly believe in the workforce of Arkansas, and I believe that our students are capable, but we have to start making sure that we provide what they need, that we keep them here in the state so we can address the aerospace industry or just engineers altogether.
So we want to get to some audience questions, but to wrap up quickly, what would be a change that you would want to see within our business leaders? I mean, you've got a great audience here. What would be regardless of industry, something that you think could be implemented today to accelerate leadership opportunities for women? Real quick, everybody.
Gosh. I think something really simple you can do is bring some of the young female leaders in your company to events like this. This is something so simple that you can bring them to and introduce them to the connections that you have and just give them a taste of what it's like being a business leader here in Central Arkansas, especially some of your young talent, getting them exposed to that when they're younger so they can have a better understanding. I think that's a very simple, actionable item.
Yeah.
I would like to see just a partnership. I would like to have a way to partner with the industries around here that I can place. And as she mentioned, when you bring them in, don't bring them in alone, bring in a cohort, because we like to collaborate, we like sisterhood. So please bring in a cohort.
And I would challenge everyone, women leave industry at higher percentages than men, and it's usually at that time that they start thinking about having families. So my challenge is find ways to keep women in industry so that when leadership opportunities present themselves, you have someone to select from. Because until more women are in leadership positions, I think we will not be as successful.
Well, thank you so much. And, y'all are all selling points for the work that we do at the Women's Foundation every day. We talk about opportunities with companies, but we also talk about, every year when Women's History Month comes around and I get in a group like this that's both men and women, and a man will say, like, what can I do? Like, it is important to invite the women around you to take on another opportunity or to participate. Again, women have to hear it 3 times. Like, we have to be invited 3 times before we think we're worthy of the invitation or the ask. So I told someone, it's simply when you think of an opportunity, or someone sends you an email like, oh, hey, there's this great opportunity, as opposed to like just saying like, oh, in my mind, so-and-so would be great at that. It's actually sending that email like, hey, like, I think you would be great at this opportunity. I think you should apply. Would you like to talk about it? I mean, that is a step that you can take that it could advance anybody regardless of gender, but really someone that's mentorship, that's leadership, that's guidance, that's opening a door. And I think for a lot of us that have success in business, like, you probably can think of a person that did that for you, and now you're probably in a position of influence yourself where you can do that for somebody. Such wonderful comments. Thank you so much. I really hope that we've got some good questions from everybody for any of our panelists.
Oh, short of mic. Thank you. What questions? I've got a question. Oh, wait, Denver has a question. I'll say mine. So you were talking about girls deciding in 3rd or 4th grade that they don't want to do science or STEAM. My daughter, I mentioned her earlier, she's in the 4th grade. And she's at this point where if she decided to do STEAM, she would be the only person in her grade, only girl in her grade who did it. And there's a lot of social pressure to conform, to do what the other girls are doing, all that, and for boys too. How do you overcome that? How do you encourage them to, try to excel at math and just build that foundation, for STEAM later?
Well, the way that I overcame that, because in most of the spaces I was in, I was the only female and often the only African-American female. But if that's what she loves and her passion, I would tell her to go ahead and do it, and maybe try to get one of her friends to do it with her. Because sometimes, if you have an interest, she's probably not the only one. And what I've found is if I would say, oh, just kind of in passing, I have an interest in doing this, someone else would say, oh yeah, that's cool. I want to do it too. Will you do it with me? So if she wants to do it, maybe try to find someone else to do it, or maybe even try to start her own organization or her own club around that. That's some of the things that I did. I would just say, oh, they don't have it. Okay, let me create one. And maybe if that's the case, then have a teacher that maybe would mentor her or guide her to help her around that area. But certainly not to just give up, because it's easy to, like you said, the pressures, it's really easy to give up or to get frustrated.
Yeah, just real quick to extend that, that's great. I will add role models. Teachers are role models. Parents are role models. Find people that your young daughter can relate to, can talk with. You know, Girls of Promise are other examples. We just had the statewide science fair competition in Fayetteville on Friday, I guess it was. So these are really important. We need to do better jobs as a state, also preparing our teachers to be stronger in math and science and create excitement around that and show what possibilities there are. I think we have some opportunities in that area as well.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you're a parent or grandparent or neighbor of a child that is interested, like, you have to go find those opportunities so your child isn't alone. But that community piece is so critical, because if your daughter is the only one, there actually are more girls out there that feel the same way. So you have to help her find that community. And we're lucky in Central Arkansas that there are a lot of great resources, right, to do that. That's not true for some of our rural areas. And so programs like Girls of Promise is a statewide program that we actually bring in rural areas to do that. But, you know, I have a kindergartner daughter, and, you know, every 9 weeks there's options for after school. Like, well, I chose Space Camp over Barbie Camp. You know, like I've chose Lego Camp over, you know, story time. I mean, those things are really prevalent and they exist. And I think that all of us as adults start thinking too about how young girls especially start getting these messages early. And so creating community for your child in those spaces where that they're still gonna be encouraged to be curious and to think about those things and see themselves, it's really important.
Hey, thank the Denver Peacock. Thank y'all for being here and being part of this. You've talked about the funnel, getting girls engaged in leadership and business, but can you talk to this room of business leaders about the importance of having policies that keep women in the workforce, maternal leave, maternity leave, you've got childcare. Just coach us up on how we ought to be working together to solve some of these challenges we're facing.
I can take a stab at that too. There are, so y'all have heard this a lot. We've had conversations that Arkansas leads the country in maternal mortality, and that means that more women die in our state post-childbirth, 12 months after giving birth to a child, than any other state. That's, and a lot of those reasons are fixable easily. It's having paid leave so that a woman isn't deciding, like, do I have to go to work or can I go to the doctor? I mean, there's lots of exasperating factors, but like that is a resource that a company can really invest in. And yes, it costs up front, but you have to start thinking about it as a retention tool. You know, our state has some of our the governor actually instituted in her first session, you know, she extended paid leave for all state employees. But if you were a part of University of Arkansas Medical Science, that did not include you, which is like our largest employer. So UAMS employees did not have paid maternity leave. The very people that were advocating for it didn't have this resource. They actually have since, they're kind of going to a slow, like how they can create it and build it. But this is low-hanging fruit. Like, this is low-hanging fruit. It's really critical. You know, childcare. I don't know if y'all saw the news 2 weeks ago, but you know, Baptist Health closed down its childcare facilities. 200 families in Central Arkansas that needed childcare no longer have childcare, and we're talking about high-demand workers right now, and they're literally on the news like, we have to decide now, do we continue to work here or we go somewhere differently because we cannot afford childcare. So childcare deserts are a real issue. Can your company offer some sort of benefits or, you know, a reimbursement for your employees? I mean, the majority of Arkansans are working households now. We do not have, where we have one breadwinner. We have people working, and the cost of childcare, the access of childcare, it's really incredible. And again, you're gonna talk to her, still getting phone calls from her kids about who's going to feed me tonight? So that stress on women in the workforce, 51% of our population are women, and we need women working. We need women working. And so companies and business leaders, you have to take that into consideration if we're going to have a viable workforce and a strong economy.
Let me add to that. Yeah, let's applaud that. That's. I will just say this, when I had my first child, we were writing the policies about what they were going to do with me, because this was at another institution. Women weren't having babies. They didn't know what was, how to deal with this. The thing is, women don't want to raise their hand and say, I'm different. I need accommodations. I need something special. We want policies that are for everyone, that everyone can take advantage of, because otherwise some may view it as a sign of weakness, right? And so it's desperately needed.
And those benefit men and women, so yeah.
I'll add to that too, as someone who is not from Arkansas and doesn't have any family support here whatsoever. It heavily impacts my decision on when to have a child, because knowing that I'm going to have to solely rely on paid childcare heavily impacts my decision on whether or not to stay here. And so I think that's something that we need to start considering is okay, we get talent to move here. How do we keep them here? And you can't just rely on, oh, well, grandma and grandpa are going to watch the kid. What if grandma and grandpa don't live here? And so that's conversations that my husband and I are having. And especially here in the sports world, we face the same challenges you guys are saying we have not had a female ever take maternity leave for the Arkansas Travelers, because every time someone's ready to have a child, they know they're not going to be able to work the 14-hour days that we work during baseball season for 7 days in a row, so they move on to a different opportunity. So those are conversations that the baseball world is having specifically, because baseball is unique in the sense that their schedule is a little bit more difficult than other sports. But
On another note with that, I left Harding University because I needed to go home to raise my children. And just what she said, I didn't have family here to support. So that's part of when I left.
Thank you for being such good role models for us today. Thanks for participating.
All right, Annabeth, Dr. Needy, Dr. Metters, and Sophie, thank you so much for coming here and speaking with us today. It's a great way to celebrate Women's History Month. I am doing my best to follow the excellent leadership example that past President Natalie Gadati set. I will say our club thrives for many reasons, not least of which is the fact that we are heads and shoulders above the national and international average percentage female members. So we can be proud of that as a club. As a thank you to our presenters, we've commissioned local Arkansan Sage Holland, a master bead maker out of Mountain Home, Arkansas, to make a commemorative bead representing our Rotary Year theme of Global Hearts, Local Hands. We hope it is a fun reminder of the time you got to spend with us. And with that, we are adjourned. We'll see you all next week.